Thank you for tuning in to the Practical Preservation Podcast. Please take a moment to visit our website, practicalpreservationservices.com, for additional information and tips to help you restore your historical home. If you've not done so, please subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, or SoundCloud, and also like us on Facebook. Welcome to the Practical Preservation Podcast, hosted by Danielle and Jonathan Kepperling. Kepperling Preservation Services is a family-owned business based in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, dedicated to the preservation of our built architectural history for today's use as well as future generations. Our weekly podcast provides you with expert advice specific to the unique needs of renovating a historic home, educating by sharing our From the Trenches preservation knowledge and our guests' expertise, balancing modern needs while maintaining the historical significance, character, and beauty of your period home.
Today on the Practical Preservation Podcast, I have with me Glenn Eldridge from Chelsea Decorative Metal. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you.
So tell me about your background.
Well, I'm originally from New York, and actually my father did this, so it's a family-owned business, and it was actually owned by my aunt before that, and then him and some other worker decided to either own the place or they were gonna retire.
Right.
And so my mom kind of lent them both the money, which they paid her back, equal partners, which in my opinion is the best. You can't have one partner more than another.
Right.
And then I wound up going to Woodstock, the festival in 1969. And when I left there, I came back and started working as an apprentice for them in New York. And then eventually my father passed away. And it was just me and this older gentleman. And so I decided to move the business to Houston. And at that point, we were just selling material. And then when I came here, I started manufacturing. And the difference was when I was selling in New York, it was very economical. You know, the landlords would get us in there. They'd say, oh, this plaster's coming down. We've patched it 20 times. Let's put up a tin ceiling and be done with it. When I came out to Houston and started selling it, it became bought for decorativeness.
Right.
And so then it was a whole different market, and I shipped all over the country, and we do occasionally ship in other places all over the world.
That's funny. I did see when I was prepping for the podcast on your website that you mentioned going to Woodstock. My mom was at Woodstock. She was in New York on her way to Europe to go to college, and her friend said, I have tickets to this festival. Do you want to go with me? And it ended up being Woodstock.
Well, I did write a book also called We Are Woodstock, which they do carry in the museum now. And it's a kind of, there's a, you know, all the facts are in there, so you get to learn about it. And there's also a love story, which is why the museum liked it. They said, the love story was really good. So it's We Are Woodstock. It's on eBay for, you know, signed copies from me or Amazon.
Yeah, very cool. So what drew you into reproducing tin ceilings or preservation?
Well, the preservation came later when people started writing and saying they have these ceilings and they need to repair them. And so I had come up with a system to reproduce the designs and do my business. And then when they had designs that weren't around, first, you know, I always say, you know, Miracle on 34th Street. If I see another company that has that design, I will tell them, hey, you can get it from this other company.
Right.
But a lot of them, they can't. And so I say, well, send us pictures and we can tell whether we think we can reproduce it, because sometimes they're too deep. But when they're not, then they need to send us a good piece. And then we cast off that and reproduce for preservation. We've done courthouses and we've done opera houses. There was one opera house that they were restoring, and they only needed 8 sheets to make 4 medallions that were over the balcony seats. And they got money from the government, and so we reproduced that with a couple of angels were on that one.
Well, that when you said deep, does it like the press, it can only be a certain depth? Is that what you mean by that?
Yes. If the design is too intricate, where you got a deep part next to a low part, then sometimes the metal won't stretch.
Okay.
So, but we've had pretty much 100% of what we tried. If I don't think it'll work, then we won't try it.
Right,
but,
right.
But so far, we've done good. And the medallion was the one that I thought, wow, this is going to be tough. And it wound up, it wasn't.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So tell me about Chelsea Decorative Metal. You kind of talked about the history already, but tell me about, the products and the geographic areas that you serve.
In New York, it was called Chelsea Metal Ceiling Company. And then when I moved out here, I made it Chelsea Decorative Metal Company. My daughter said, you got to leave the name Chelsea in honor of your dad. So that's what I did. But our website is tinman.com, which, I was going to change the whole company. And she says, no, you have to honor your dad. So I left it. So I got two names. So I'm sorry, the question was.
Tell me about the history, your products, geographic areas you serve. Yeah.
Okay. So we have sheets of metal that come 2 foot by 4 foot, which we feel is easy to install. When I used to install it in New York, they were 2 by 8, very hard to handle.
Oh,
so
yeah, that would be hard. Yeah.
Some people have 2 by 2s, but I think 2 by 4s are easy to handle, and you have less seams, and it covers more area at one time. And so that's an advantage to that. So we have the sheets, and they come in 6-inch designs for smaller areas like bathrooms, definitely backsplashes. You got 1 foot designs, and then you have the 2 foot designs, which is usually more commercial or very high ceilings. And then we have the crown molding that goes with it, and that ranges from 2.5 inches all the way to 9 inches. And it's not like you can pick a design, whatever the design is in that size, that's what you get.
Right.
Okay. Then we have what's called a filler, and it's just a pebbly design. And what that does is when, for instance, if you had a 12 by 12 room, we would put 10 by 10 of the design. We would have this 1 foot of filler going around, and then the crown would land on that. So this way, it's not landing on the design.
Right.
Gives you a nice, cleaner finish. And I'm sorry. And it gives you a nice, cleaner finish.
Yeah.
And so that's the filler. And then we have a frieze, which goes on kind of below the ceiling, on top, going around the room. People don't really know what that is and don't really use that too much.
Is it more flat than the crown?
It's flat, and it goes on the wall. And we do have a molded filler, which if you had that room that was 10 by 10, well, let's say it was 10.4 by 10.4, you can use the molded part, which is like a picture frame around the design, and then the filler, and then the crown. So it's like 4 pieces, but it makes it nice. Usually I recommend that more for dining rooms or more formal looks.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
And those are basically the what we carry.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And do you ship all across the country then? Yes,
we ship all over the world too. We ship to Norway and Dubai and Germany. In fact, I went to Germany, and I went to the place it was called, if I can say it here.
Oh, sure.
Fat Ass Pizza. And so we went there to see it, and I looked up and I gave him a little hints how he could make it look a little better.
That's funny. What architectural periods use tin ceilings? Are there specific time periods that use tin ceilings? I know some people just use them for decorations in newer houses too.
It's usually decorations, because a lot of people say we're eclectic, which they put all sorts of things. Yeah. But from my research, it started back in the 1800s. And the main reason it was used is because labor to make these decorative ceilings in the plaster was too much.
Right, so that makes sense.
Right, so they made these sheets, which once they were put up, 2 by 4s or 2 by 8s at the time, then you painted it white. That was to represent the plaster.
Right. And now that you say that, that makes total sense to me. I never had thought about it that way, but I've encountered, storefronts that they made fancy, during the Victorian era with metal, metal embellishments too. It's probably the same thing, just trying to make it look fancier than it is with less money.
Right, in the doorways. And yes, and so as far back as I know, it's Victorian was the big thing. And I think they got some of the ideas of the designs from Paris, which they were going through, the Victorian era.
Right.
Then, of course, then came the turn of the century. And then we have designs for that also. A Victorian is the most popular designs. They're the most fancy and ornate. And then the turn of the century, it became more streamlined, more plain squares, like that. Then we have Art Deco, which came more in the 20s.
Right.
And so they made new designs for that. And of course, Art Deco designs. And then somewhere in there was Americana, because we have one which is just stars.
Okay.
And then those are still existing today. And, and then, generic, if there are some that don't fit anywhere, people like that too.
Yes. Yes. Are there differences in the finishes that were used, or do people just pick the finishes that will match their house?
Well, it always came in just the shiny, it wasn't even shiny, it was a dull silver finish. When I started manufacturing, I used tin plated steel. So now it has a little shine to it.
Right.
But I don't really like it, and it should be protected. So you're something clear. But I usually recommend painting it silver, basically for 3 reasons. One is that it needs the protection. So if you're going to protect it, you can paint it any color you want.
Right.
But some people people to know it's tin ceilings. So if you paint it silver, it still looks like a tin ceiling.
Right.
It also makes it look older. So this way people don't think, oh, you just bought that yesterday. And then the third is, which I believe is the reflection. If it's shiny, it reflects more and you can see more detail in the design when it's more matted.
Right.
Right now, when it's shiny, over by the window, you're going to see the reflection of the light. In a corner, it's going to look dark. People think it's going to light up the whole room, but it really reflects what it sees. So when you paint it, it evens the flow of light more so across the room.
Yeah, I could see that. Because at first when you were saying painting it silver, I was thinking, it would reflect, but yeah, it has to have the light to reflect off of.
But now the finishes we have now, we do have a bright copper, which is which I usually recommend. We have that at 20% off. So it's maybe 50% more than the silver. Right. But then you don't have to pay for someone to paint, because you don't have to paint the silver.
So you
don't have to paint the copper. But I always tell them, but you have to have the brown tones. Don't use it just because you think you're going to save a little money. It's not worth it. Then we have
oxidize inside. Does it turn that green?
If you wash it down with muriatic acid, which we did have a restaurant chain that used to do that. It was a Mexican restaurant chain, and they used to mop it down with muriatic acid, which you can get at a pool supply place. Yeah. And they would stack them up so it wouldn't dry. And really, I went the next day to deliver more stuff, and they were already kind of rusted in that greenish.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
It's like an instant patina.
Yeah. But then they decided to go with the big bright orange and yellow colors. So now they just painted them all. But we also, we can do the clear coat and one color like white or the pewter, but it really is better if you paint it after it's up. You cover up the nail heads. If you scratch it while you're putting it up, then you need to touch it up. So this way, once you put it up, we recommend painting it after it's up. Now, if you want a faux finish, that's different, because that's like 2 colors mixed. And when we sell that, we have a bunch of different colors that are faux finishes, and those are worth doing before you order.
And then just touch up after.
And then touch up, yeah.
So what are some of the other uses for the ceiling, the tin ceiling panels?
Okay, yeah. Well, as we say, ceilings, but also they do walls. We did a saloon somewhere in, I think, North Dakota. We actually did, I think, in Wyoming, or Cody, at Cody's house. They had a cabin, I guess, we had sold to them at one point. And so they put it on the walls of a saloon in another place. Then you have your wainscoting, which can be either from the floor up to waist high, or some people have the wood there and then do it from waist high to the ceiling. So that's one reason. Then you got the do-it-yourselfers who frame pieces, and then they do faux finishes. And it's funny because I've installed metal in places that have artwork of the metal that somebody else did. So, and arts and crafts, they put it on cabinet inserts. I've seen it on trunks that they wanted to restore.
Oh yeah.
Somebody did a clock face. I mean, the do-it-yourself, it opens up a whole range. They did it,
yeah, you can.
You know those screens where you get dressed behind and you throw your clothes.
Oh yes, like
a 3 fold out. They've done those too.
Oh, that's a fun idea too. And sometimes backsplashes.
And definitely backsplash.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that's the most popular other than ceilings. They did an article up in Rochester where I guess the Eastman Kodak was, because I recognized the Rochester when I was from New York. And that was before computers, and it was obviously I used to send out newsletters through magazines. And so when I get 2 letters from the same city in one day or in 2 days, I think something's up. And so of course, they did an article. And yes, we got swamped with people because they did an article on backsplashes. And
that's
it's really
fun
good because they don't have to put the grout. They just put the sheet up. We try not to get you to glue it to the tile itself, but today they got things that can hold to that tile. But usually we say take off the tile and run it up there. And backsplash is very popular. And we would recommend the 6-inch design because most backsplashes are like 18 inches, 15 to 18 inches high. So you get 3 designs, little designs, instead of 1.5 of the 1 foot designs.
That makes sense. And do you find that it's pretty easy just to wipe down then and clean? Yeah.
Well, we do recommend, painting it again. And now you're going to get water splashing. So they definitely want to do that. And then it cleans like any wall that you've painted.
Yeah. Oh, very cool. So you were talking about like having somebody lay it out and then putting the filler around. So do you help people through that as part of the ordering process?
That is my job. Yes.
Okay.
I always like people to send the design. I did the diagram of the area, what they think they want to use. And then I do drawings. My guy says we get about 85 to 90% of the people who we do drawings wind up buying. So that's good. Because it is really annoying when they send me something and after I do the whole thing and send it back, they go, oh, I didn't give you the exact measurements.
Oh, goodness.
So then I got to do it over because when you use the filler, it really depends on how much is going to be there. And I try to make it so it's like 10 inches so you can cut the filler in half and use both halves so there's no waste.
Oh, yeah.
But the room really dictates it. But again, like I said, there's a molded part, which sometimes if you need an extra few inches so you can cut the filler in half and save money, the molded part is less expensive and you can use that to
that's really
give
smart.
you the dimensions you need. And sometimes the room is, wild different dimensions, because I know there are companies that have computers to do it, but not everyone's room is a rectangle.
Well, and you have an advantage from having installed it and not wanting to having that thought process of let's figure out how we can maximize the material rather than, wasting it.
Well, that is that is a big plus, because sometimes they'll call and they'll start telling me what they have. And I said, well, you can't, like if they say they're going to put it on an acoustical ceiling, I said, that's not a good idea because acoustical tiles are soft. And when you start nailing, especially with a nail gun, it pushes it up where you nail. And so you get a wavy effect. Now, of course, I know that. So I tell them you can't do that. And other companies usually don't have someone who used to install. I used to install. So they just sell the material. And, so I ask questions that I know they're going to come across that someone else who's just a salesman is not going to ask.
Right.
And I'm willing to help. I give them all the explanation and tell them with the diagram, once you get the metal, you can call again. You can't call too much if you have a question. If somebody is at the start of the ordering process to call in to kind of give you the measurements of where they want to put it, and then you go from there for the order. Yeah, I do the diagram and I will show them where to start, because in some cases you don't start in the center like people think. Because if you have, for instance, 5 feet and you start in the center, you have 2.5 feet on each side. Well, now you're cutting into the sheet. So I tell them, no, move the chalk line over so you have 3 feet on one side and 2 feet on the other. Visually it'll look the same if you did it the hard way, but it's just less labor if less cutting and you're not going to have those seams. So that makes it much nicer. Yeah. And on that drawing, because I have their address. So we put down what it's going to, and I'll do more than one drawer. I'll do with filler and without filler,
Right.
And then they pick which they want. And it's got the price on there with shipping. And then smaller orders they can do online. When it gets bigger, the freight is kind of online.
Yeah.
So we have them call. We think people should call us anyway because they always have questions.
Yeah.
And so off that drawing, they can, usually place an order. We do take PayPal, or they can send a check, which people say, "Oh, really? You still take checks?" And
we do too.
So online they do take credit cards, but they're smaller orders.
Yeah, definitely. So, can someone match a ceiling that's already been installed in their home? We kind of talked about that a little bit with the Medallion and the Opera House, but do you do that often?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I like people, when they tell me they're trying to repair, first they need to send me what the design is to see if we can match it up. And if we can't, whether we've seen it by some other company. If not, then I want to know where it's damaged. For instance, if it's damaged in the center, maybe a 4x4 area, that's a little off center, I'll tell them, look, if you do a 16x16 area in the center, yes, you're covering up some good stuff, but now you're making a geometric design in the ceiling. So now it doesn't look like a repair. Now it looks like it's supposed to be there. And so I help with that. Sometimes if it's one corner, you do 4 corners. So it just doesn't look like a repair. And we use a design that's complementary to what they already have. We did that once in I guess it was an old folks home where they I think it was the restaurant or where they eat, and it wound up that the middle was good and the back and the whole circle, the outside was good. So we did a 4-foot inner circle, and it looked just great. And I think they even painted it different to
highlight it.
To highlight it, yes. Good word.
That's funny. Yes. So, and you talked about it a little bit, but the accessories that you have available, the filler, is that just for around the edge, or do you put that over the seams too? Like how?
So that's just around the perimeter.
Okay.
The seams, they overlap. People always ask how that is, but they do overlap. And we have the seam face away from the eye, although they're pretty tight. Now the filler is a pebbly design. So when you overlap that, we have people close those seams by tapping them with the back of a nail, hitting the head just to crimp the metal closed a little, because it's laying over a bumpiness. And the same thing with the cornice is laying on top of the filler. So that's, again, over a bumpiness. If it's a really high ceiling, it's not going to matter. But, it just closes it up a little better. And if they're going to paint, then it'll catch paint better too.
We're almost to the end of the outline that I made. So I'm wondering, is there anything that you thought about as we were talking that maybe you want to share that I didn't think to ask you?
Well, no, just some funny story is that we have supplied probably 4 to 6 topless bars, which I don't understand who's looking at the ceiling.
That's funny.
But I think what happened was we did one, and I think that they went to, people from other ones went in there and saw it. And all of a sudden we were getting these different bars, and I just thought that was unusual.
That's really funny. That it's like a niche that you can cater to.
Yeah, it's like I mean, we have done old funeral homes because if you look at them, they've had the metal ceilings and old firehouses. And of course, what another thing is we have supplied movies. We have supplied. There were some Skeleton Key, which was a Stephen King. I mean, I saw it in The Godfather, but that was original old one where he goes and shoots the guy up in the hallway. But yeah, we have supplied a lot of movies. Spider-Man, one of the new King Kongs. We supplied TV shows. Seinfeld had it in the restaurant. Saturday Night Live, they used to come out from the stage, or I think it was that. When they start the show, and it was in the background.
Oh yeah.
We love seeing it everywhere in these different shows. And I'm always asking with the movies, who's in it, because I'm a big movie buff.
Oh, are you?
Movie posters, so I'm always interested in who's in it and when it's coming out. And sometimes they change the name.
Oh yeah.
So that's fun to me.
That is really
fun.
And
yesterday we had a guy come from Stages, which is actually they put on shows. and they're doing it as a background to a new Captain Hook play, which is from Hook's point of view. But I know we did send it to New York once. And they were doing West Side Story, and they were using just the cornice around the top part of the candy store, where they
that would be perfect. Yeah,
and it was just So that's always fun and different. And sometimes they're big, and sometimes they're small, but they need it tomorrow. That's the thing. They pay more for shipping than the metal.
Right. Yeah. Do you have that? This makes me think. Do you have things in stock, or is there a pretty long lead time usually?
We do manufacture here.
Okay.
So we do have it in stock, and we try to have the material in. Well, we have the material in stock. So if we don't have the particular design, we can still turn it around within a week. The painting is the tough part, because our painter, he can take 6 to 10 weeks, depending on how busy he is. But otherwise, the material we usually can turn around pretty fast. The newest thing we've actually been doing is supplying suspended ceilings. So now we make them so they can fit in. So we have to ask people, because a lot of times they're ordering, because it says 2x4, but the 2x4s are with the overlap, so they're really a ½ inch bigger. So you don't lose anything when you're doing a ceiling. But the lay-in tiles are like a ½ inch smaller.
Right.
So we have to, make those special to fit in. We recommend the 2x2s, but we can also do 2x4s. And we also
they fit into the grids.
They fit right into the grid.
Okay.
Yeah. And then of course they have to cut them by the wall. Now by the wall, sometimes if they use a 6-inch design, those are not as deep. Because the 6-inch are a little deep, the 1 foot a little more, and the 2 foot the deepest. So it's going to lay up on the grid, unless it's maybe the 6-inch design. But we also have the filler, which they can use a filler on the primitive pieces that they have.
Yeah, that's really, that would be something fun if you had an acoustical ceiling, but you didn't really you wanted to put something fun in it rather than just the tiles. Yeah. Because
a lot of times they'll take down acoustical ceilings and they'll find a metal ceiling up there. And we've had people who have tried to save it. Yeah. And if it's a small room, then the suspended ceiling was usually on wire, so they put a nail in. But if it's a big place, especially commercial, they've chopped that ceiling up to put in black iron to hang it. Yeah. So that's tough. But sometimes we do match up the design. So, that's a good sign.
Yeah, that is. It's always fun when you're doing a project and you uncover something that's fun like that's been covered up that nobody's seen for a while.
Yes. And I'll tell people if they can save some of it, because there are times when they'll say, well, the part in that corner of the room is the original, but the rest is new. And we are pretty knowledgeable here and like to help people. And so we recommend, that we think the design's too big. A lot of times they don't realize there's a different scale to the designs, and they'll order something like a 2-foot design for backsplash, which just doesn't go. So we try to help the customers best. We know they really are new to it, even though it's been around over 100 years.
Yeah. No, I completely agree, because sometimes people know what they want, but they don't really know what they need.
Right. We do send samples.
Yeah. Okay. Very good.
And we go get those out right away.
Okay. Perfect. Well, very good. Well, did you have any offers for our listeners?
Well, I think our prices are very competitive, and our knowledge and our drawings, but we are still willing to offer a 10% to your listeners on the sheets and the cornices and the filler, and right now we have 20% off the copper, which makes it like I said earlier, worth getting if you can use a brown tone in your room rather than silver and painting it, if you can use the copper. But it is shiny. It is shiny. I think they had something like that in Maxwell Plums in New York. If that's even still around, who knows? It's a big restaurant at the time. And we do a lot of restaurant chains that use it consistently. But most of the orders are residential. And believe it or not, it's the consumer who tells the builder, this is what I want.
Right.
Or the architect, this is what I want. And they usually give our name to them, which is good because, they're the ones who want it. So it's not the architect. But now when it comes to commercial, then sometimes the architects will say, hey, I have this idea of a tin ceiling in it. A lot of restaurants and bars for that atmosphere of that old.
Right. They want to get like
old time feel.
Yeah. Very good. Well, how can our listeners get in touch with you?
Oh, okay. We are in Houston, Texas. If you want, you can look up Tinman in Houston. That would be me coming up all the time. We do have some ads on TikTok now. Somebody told me I should do that. Not on TikTok so much, but our website is easy to remember. It's tinman.com. And we are in Houston, and the phone number is 713-721-9200. And either I answer the phone. Here's another thing. Either I answer the phone or Larry answers the phone.
Oh, perfect.
The only time you get a machine is if we're both on or we're closed.
Right. That's very good.
And let me tell you, that's a big plus because
it is.
And our website, people like, we get these people who are always wanting to upgrade, the website. And we have our customers say, you know what, these are it's really easy to follow.
Right.
And
yeah.
I have gone on other people's and I know what it is and I get lost.
Right.
They have too many things, too many jumping around. Ours is pretty simple.
Yeah.
With some pictures of finished products.
Yeah. Good design's important.
Yes.
Yeah. So, well, very good. Well, thank you for joining me today. I'll make sure that your contact information is up on our site where the podcast is located. So there's somebody is curious about finding you, and I would think they could remember Tinman, but if they can't, they could go look there.
I am the Tin Man. We are the Tin People, and we do have a heart here. So we do try to accommodate all kind of people that call up.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Practical Preservation Podcast. The resources discussed during this episode are on our website at practicalpreservationservices.com/podcast. If you received value from this episode and know someone else that will get value from it as well, please share it with them. Join us next week for another episode of the Practical Preservation Podcast. For more information on restoring your historic home, visit practicalpreservationservices.com.